Hi guys, welcome back to Nix Reads. Thank you so much for everybody who is subscribed, and if you aren't already, I make bookish videos, I review books, I present you my TBRs, and if you're interested in any of that, please feel free to subscribe. Today we're talking my classics TBR for 2023 because I did a complete overhaul of my strategy. Usually I would have put together a list of 10 books or so from different authors, but one of my bookish goals is to actually read the books that I buy and store on my shelves. So following the success that I had in putting together my nonfiction November TBR from last year, what happened was I just chose the books that I already own for my TBR, and not only did I end up reading and enjoying pretty much all of them, I also finally had a reason to pick up a bunch of books that I've just otherwise would have not touched in the next 2-3 years probably. So that is what I want to replicate for my classics TBR. I had a total of 18 books that qualify for the classics category. This way I don't have to spend more money on books that are just going to collect dust on my bookshelves. And I also get to read some cool classics that I was interested in anyways, well, interested enough to actually acquire them already. A quick caveat before I show you guys the books, because my only selection criteria was that I already own the book. This is a very random selection and not very diverse in terms of authors, in terms of what language they were published in. So this is not a very BIPOC friendly list. Please keep that in mind. That is why for the rest of my TBR, for sure, I am always looking for new BIPOC authors to read from. The first 4 books I have here are super fun. They're all Agatha Christie novels. The first one is Taken at the Flood, which I've already read last month, so that is checked off my list already. Then I have Murder on the Orient Express, because I've watched the movie, the new one only, but I've never read the original material, and it's supposedly one of her best. Of course I have And Then There Were None. I've actually already read this. It was the first ever book that I've read by this author, but I was not in the right mindset. I was at that time very much focusing on psychological contemporary thrillers, so I was just not really hyped up for this book enough. But I think now that my palate got used to classic murder mysteries, I'm gonna appreciate this so much more, and I'm expecting to give this 4 or 5 stars, so this is gonna be a reread. And lastly, I have Cards on the Table. I know that this is a favorite, so I'm probably gonna keep this for last as the little cherry on top. With the next 2 books, I can probably not go any more classic for the fantasy section. It is Lord of the Rings by Tolkien, so these are very, very bright green editions of the German translation. I don't know why. I bought these 3-4 years ago, and for some reason I thought it's better for me to read the translated version and not the English original. We're just gonna go with it because this is what I have. I already read The Hobbit and the first book, and I liked them fine, but I wasn't super into it. But as I manifested, the concert that I went to on Friday, where they played the entire 3rd movie, not the extended version though, and a 250 person orchestra with a choir played along the music live the whole time. That completely transformed me. I am now a big fan. That was the most amazing experience ever, honestly. It was, if you ever have the chance to watch something like that live for any movie, it's amazing. It was the first time I sat down and watched a movie in one piece with all my attention on it, and it was great. I now understand why it won so many Oscars. All the more reason for me to dive headfirst into the second book, and I'm so much more appreciative now and enjoying the series. It was a good timing for me to pick this out of my TBR jar. Next I have a Scandinavian classic. It's Nils Holgersson by Selma Lagerlöf. The title says this is the collection of Nils's most beautiful adventures with the geese. I picked this up because Camila from Hasty Books, I'm gonna link her channel down below, started this really cool reading challenge last year where we read a book by a female Nobel Prize winner in the literature category, and Selma Lagerlöf won this prize. So I chose this because I remember seeing this kids classic, the animated version, on TV when I was younger, but I never really watched it. But it looks very wholesome and nice. Moving on to the rest of the classics that were published in the English language. The first one is Lord of the Flies by William Golding. The story holds a special place in my heart. While I've never read the story before, we actually put on a play of this story when I was in middle school, which was pretty cool. I wasn't one of the actors actually, but I did everybody's makeup, which was fun. This is the infamous story about a bunch of preteen boys being stranded on an island and anarchy ensues. On a side note, for the pretty popular books, I am pretty much skipping over the plot summary. Just in case you don't know what these stories are about, I am putting a list of all the titles in the description below. So if you want to know more about one of the books, then please feel free to look it up on Goodreads or Storygraph or wherever. Then I have 2 books by Mark Twain. The first one is The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, and then I have The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. So the reason why these are 2 wildly different editions is because I picked this rougher looking one up from a used bookstore for I think $1, but I didn't realize at that time that this is actually the second book in the series. This is the first, and this is such a nice hardcover edition because I borrowed this. This is from my boyfriend's mom, and I think they went to Mark Twain's either birthplace or the town where he lived and then was buried, and they picked this up from a souvenir shop. So that's why it's such a nice book. I assume I need to read this one first before I can read Huckleberry Finn. I might be wrong, but I have it now. So I'm gonna read it in order. While I'm familiar with the characters, I don't really know too much about the story, but I am expecting a coming of age type of situation of these 2 boys. The next 3 books are in these beautiful paperback English Penguin Library editions. The first one is Dracula by Bram Stoker. I am actually reading this one currently. Well, I started it last summer, but I put a hold on it. But now that I'm continuing it, it's actually really nice. So it's written in the epistolary format, and so far it's a lot of foreboding and setting the story up for more evil to come. So it's actually very interesting so far, and I really hope that I can finish this soon because it's been a while. And Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. This one I have very, very high hopes for because it is a Gothic mystery, and I love contemporary Gothic mysteries or Gothic horror or Gothic romance, so I really hope I can get into this one. I've read Wuthering Heights before from, is it Emily Bronte? I'm not too sure, from the other Bronte sister, one of the 3, and that was not for me. I read it maybe 6-7 years ago when I was really not in the right headspace for classics, and it ended up just being the most despicable story to me with just horrible, horrible people. I think if I read it now, I would be able to appreciate the pure anger and hatred that stems out of just unrequited or impossible love. But reading it back then, I was just thinking to myself, how can people be so horrible and how can people enjoy this book? But for now, I'm gonna stick to Jane Eyre. Then I have 3 books written and published in German originally. First one is Schachnovelle by Stefan Zweig. The English title is The Royal Game or Chess Story. It's a story about people playing chess on a ship. I've hauled this in my latest video. You can check that out if you want. Then I have something I'm actually excited for. It's Momo by Mikhail Ende. I'm pretty sure it's the same title in English because Momo is a name. It's the name of our main character. So she's a girl who lives in a big city in the ruins of an amphitheater. How's that for a setup? And she has special powers. She listens to people and can give them more time in life. But one day an evil comes to town in the form of gray men in suits, and they can steal time from people, which I guess unalives them. I'm not too sure, but this is a classic within the fantasy children's section, so I think this is going to be a really, really nice one to get into. Then I have another German children's classics about an amateur sleuth, technically. It's Emil und die Detektive, which translates to Emil and the Detectives by Erich Kästner. I'm guessing this is going to be a fun, sweet little story. And lastly, I have 2 Russian classics that you've seen in some of my haul videos on this channel before. The first one is Mikhail Bulgakov's The Master and Margarita. This sounds like a wild story. So this takes place in the 1930s in Moscow, and we have essentially Satan coming to town and wreaking havoc. And at the same time, this is about an author who is in an asylum and his beloved one, Margarita. I've heard a few people saying that this is their all-time favorite book, so that is why this made it onto my TBR. And the last book, you're probably sick of me talking about this book being on my TBR and wanting to get to it. Now is the time. It's Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. I mean, look at this book, the size of this. It's, oh my god, and the paper is so thin, the font is so small. Yeah, this is gonna be a huge accomplishment if I finish it this year, hopefully. So I have a buddy read lined up with Camila, so hopefully this is gonna help me get through this book, which reminds me I need to text her and ask her when she wants to start reading this. And also I just heard from a real life friend that they're also picking this book up, I think starting in April. So I'm not gonna be the only one reading this, which hopefully that is gonna help me get through this. I mean, it's supposed to be fantastic, right? Is anybody else out there planning to read this book? Let me know. The more people I know that are tackling this, the better. This is my first Leo Tolstoy, by the way. The friend who's picking it up soon as well, it's a reread for him, and he was the one who suggested for me to start with Anna Karenina and not with War and Peace. Let's start with this before thinking about buying War and Peace, shall we? All right, that was all the classics for 2023. I know that 18 books is quite a lot. If in any case I cannot finish all 18 books this year, I will take them with me into 2024 before putting together a new TBR for classics, just so that I can finally get these off my shelves. All is left is my question to you guys. Have you read any of these books? Please tell me you enjoyed them. And also, are you planning on picking up any of these books this year? Because maybe we can do some kind of buddy read. And lastly, can you recommend classics from BIPOC authors that you've read and loved? Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy bookish content, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.